Hello everyone, welcome back to Carpo's channel. Today I'm going to tell you the truth about the truth, and the truth about the truth is that there is no truth, and that's the truth. So I'm going to get into defining my position here. First off, of course I'm joking. There is a universal reality that most of us share, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know. If we walk downtown Portland and we look at a building, it's the same building, right? We can describe it the same, give you the same colors, patterns, everything. Whether or not you exist or I exist to you is one of those big, existential questions of, I think, therefore I am, which is this argument that basically all I can know for sure is that I have a mind. Now, I'm not going to go into that crap. It's not a philosophical discussion, but it's important to, let me just say, drop the act that a lot of philosophers have, that, things are an illusion and that nothing's really real, and that it doesn't matter anyway, and that life is what you make of it, and it's all irrelevant, and it's all perspective, and all that's true, but only in small increments. The bigger picture is that most of us agree on a certain, basic principle of what life is. It is, as far as the fact that we're alive, we are affected by gravity, for example. Whether you believe in gravity or not, or whether you believe the earth is flat or round, it doesn't really matter. And I never like that argument, because even if it's flat, it can still be round. You mean flat versus spherical. But it doesn't matter. Here we are still. That's the thing. All these arguments, whether space exists, whether the earth is hollow, none of them, they don't matter when you get down to the point that we're all trying to live together. So the big questions, the ones that we can't agree on, the truths that we disagree on, are the most important truths, right? Whether God exists, whether my God exists or your God exists, what political views to take on a certain subject or in general. What love is, whether we should tolerate bullshit from other people or speak up. All these little aspects of being a human are very complicated to navigate. I mean, these are the things that we can't just open a book and say, this is the answer. We can, but then we find later that it's mostly bullshit. And look, I've been through a lot of, let's just say, I've tried many different approaches to understanding people and life, because I want to have the widest angled viewpoint that I can. I want the wide angle lens for society, so I can say, I've tried to understand my neighbor, I've tried to roll with the punches, I've enjoyed my life as best I can without harming others, all certain basic principles. But that's just the thing. There are certain principles that we agree on too. Regardless of your religious or political beliefs, a majority of people believe that you should, do your best to enjoy your life without harming others. They believe that we should not murder people. Of course, self-defense is not murder, it's self-defense. But we shouldn't, harm other people or take other people's lives just because of, misunderstandings or how we feel. And the same goes for animals, creatures. I mean, sometimes we treat animals better than we treat people, but other times we treat people just like animals. And, I don't want to get into the negative aspects of that, because there's no point. There's human trafficking, there's slavery, there's just blatant murder. But for the most part, that's the minority, For the most part, murder has gone down. Crime is statistically going down. Most of the crime that we have is, say, drug-related crime, just because of laws that are made to prevent people from doing what they want to do, which is get high. And so we end up with all these laws against basically everything. And so, sure, yeah, there's crime. But if you eliminate person-to-person crime, if you just stick to person crime and eliminate all crime that doesn't harm others directly, there's very little crime out there. And most people give a shit about each other and care. And I want to point that out, because I feel like not just we're losing faith, but I'm losing faith somewhat in humanity, in especially my own nation, in our ability to have empathy and care about one another, while at the same time realizing that fear is the ultimate motivator and it's also the ultimate blindfold, I guess, for lack of a better term. I mean, when I'm going off the top of my head without notes, it makes it hard because sometimes I have a few ideas that I've thought of. But right now, it's just, there's so much going on out there. I really want to focus on the, the things that we can actually deal with and handle versus, ooh, what's coming in the November elections, or how chaotic is this country going to be this winter when, people realize that the pandemic is an issue and that now it's combined with flu and now our hospitals are overwhelmed. If this doesn't happen, I'll be glad to sit back and say, fuck, I was wrong. Maybe we were totally fooled. Maybe it was all wrong. We were totally mistaken. But at the same time, there's part of me that says, well, I'd rather be the guy that cried wolf in this case than the person who contributes to people dying for my own stubborn nature. And now we're in this battle of like what's real and what's not. And so when we step back and we say, okay, basically everything we believe is based on information we get from somewhere, someone. So even if you don't watch the news at all, you don't watch the media, you never watch Fox, CNN, NBC, any of them, and you just sit at home and you devour your own version of things, my question would be, where is that from? Now, I get basic news headlines from Associated Press. Every morning I go to AP and I look at the headlines. Now, AP is biased like anybody else, and their particular individual journalists are biased just like anyone else. But I'll also scan every so often the headlines of Breitbart, of Fox News, of NBC, of CNN, very rarely, because CNN's just garbage. I mean, so is Fox, but I need to know the alternate viewpoint on things and, the propaganda that people are pushing from both sides. And then I step back and say, should I involve myself in any of this? Should I even care? Should I even partake in this bullshit version of a democracy or society? But then I say I have to because I'm in it and there's no way out of it. So, I don't know. It's kind of hard not to be part of something when you live in it. It's like, I've heard other people say this, but not often enough. It's like, you can't just pack up and run to the hills or be ostracized or excommunicated from the country like you used to. We're born here. We have nowhere else to go. Even if you want to go live in the mountains, you've got land use taxes and property taxes, and somebody owns it, or the forestry service, or gets you arrested, or should say the logging company that owns the land. It's so much of the land out there that we have, and I live in the Pacific Northwest, is loggers' land, logging land, which I have no problem with as an adult now, and I understand that wood is necessary to build houses, of course. I believe in responsible timber harvest, and when I was a kid, it was all clear cuts. These days, they're replanting, and that's an important step, but it's not enough because we're taking the mother trees, which means we're taking not just that, but the whole topsoil is destroyed and eliminated all that mycelium, the mycelial mat, the network, the neural network of the woods. And not to get into the hippie shit, but these things are all being proven to be true now. I mean, the fact that the forest communicates, the trees feed each other, and that when you eliminate it, you can't just plant a bunch more trees like grass in your yard. I mean, even grass uses a variety of networks to, grow and communicate. But people want uniformity. They just want to be, cut all the trees in one area and be done. And anyhow, kind of off track there, but that I have, I have empathy enough and understanding enough to want to protect my forests that I grew up with. But at the same time, realize that humans need to build homes, and wood is a very good renewable resource if it's done properly. And the thing is, so many things are like that in this world right now, but we're just a throwaway society, and what we're doing is we're throwing away our values with it, and we're throwing away our future by short-sighted politics and ideas that will only get us maybe a few years into the future. It's the I win, you lose attitude. We are so distracted with competition with one another that we forget that we all live in the same country, on the same planet, in the same world here, and that it's very small, out floating out in space. And if we don't work this shit out, we've proven what I believe is the Fermi Paradox, if I'm not mistaken, which is that if aliens got to a certain state where they were able to actually develop the technology to travel, they would have had to got past their hatred for one another, their tendency towards nuclear war. They would have had to create these energy forms where they could have destroyed themselves. And we're at that point right now. You know, the distance between 1940 and 1990 and then 2020, these aren't very long distances. They seem like, oh, we've had nuclear energy forever when we developed the first bomb and dropped it. That is fucking shock and awe right there, my friends. That was unbelievable. But America didn't just drop one. We dropped two. And there was time between the two. It was unnecessary to drop the second one. The whole thing was done as an experiment to see how bad it could be. That was the evil side of humanity. And Oppenheimer himself, who helped create the first nuclear bomb, atomic bomb, he said, he quoted this old Shiva, Hindu quote that's, I am death destroyer, or I have become death destroyer of worlds, I believe. But he realized his creation could destroy, and right now we're at this new precipice where we still have that technology, and it just happened, really, in relative human history. We just invented the bomb, and now we've just invented a time bomb called the internet. It allows us to communicate. We can use it for good or evil, just like a hammer. When people talk about things being good or bad, money being good or bad, or politics good or bad, they haven't thought it through. It's all like a hammer. There's two things about a hammer.